Hey everybody, here with the Ranger EV battery pack that I've been working on for the last month or so. And what I've done is I've bought an IMAX 6-cell lithium charger. It's capable of only charging one of my battery modules at a time. So I've electrically isolated a number of modules. If you remember, I've got 5 modules that had at least one cell at or near 0 volts. So I started off with the modules that were in the best shape. So the first module that I started off with had a module voltage of 9.86 volts, and I built an adapter cable using one of my BMS cell monitoring cables so that I could hook up this IMAX B6 version 2 lithium charger to one of my modules at a time. And what I found was the cell voltages were too low to get the IMAX charger running in lithium mode. But what I did was I set the IMAX charger to lead acid mode and let it charge for about an hour or 2 hours. And what it did was it got the module voltage up above 11.5 volts. I let it get pretty close to 12 volts before I stopped it. And I was worried that what was happening was the 3 or 4 good cells that were in the module were taking all the charge, and the 2 really low cells weren't taking any charge. But I had to just let it run and see what happened. So I let it run for a couple hours, and then I measured the cell voltages with my Fluke voltmeter. And much to my surprise, the 2 very low cells had actually taken a charge and recovered. They were very close to what the other 4 cells were. So I then hooked back up the IMAX charger to that module and put it in the lithium mode, and it was able to run and start charging, doing the balance charging in the lithium mode. So I ran that for about 4 hours, and I did see a slight increase in those 2 low cells. It was very minuscule. It was like 2/100ths of a volt of an increase in those 2 low cells. But all the cells were sort of, they were pretty close in voltages, and I think that's what I'm going for. I think what's more important is to have none of the cells at 0 and all of the cells in each module as close as can be. So that seems successful, at least to that point. You know, the module's not totally charged and ready to go, but I think it's close to the other 18 good modules in my pack. So I then moved on to the next one that was measuring 6.8 volts module voltage, and it was so low the IMAX wouldn't even charge it in lead acid mode. But what I found was with the IMAX and nickel metal hydride mode, it would charge it, and it seemed to be charging really quick. So I kept a really close eye on it. It was going back and forth in the house, in the garage, watching my voltages, you know, checking for heat. At one point I even set the IMAX charger on top of the battery that it was charging, because the IMAX charger has an internal temperature sensor, and if it goes above 50 degrees C, it'll stop charging. So that made me feel a little bit more comfortable, you know, leaving it alone. But I was watching it like every 10 minutes. And I was also using my Fluke infrared temperature gun to check the battery temperature to make sure the battery temperature wasn't rising. And it wasn't. It was rock solid at like temperature of the garage out here, 55, 56 degrees. So Fahrenheit. So everything was fine. So I left the second module on nickel metal hydride mode again for a couple hours. I got the voltage up to about 11.5 volts, and I measured the cell voltage with my Fluke meter. Was able to put the IMAX back in lithium mode, use the IMAX to check the cell voltages, and very similar situation as the first module that I tried. The low cells were below 2. Some of the other cells were a little bit above 2. So I got the whole module up to about I think it was 12.2 volts, somewhere in there. Again, really low for these. I'm looking for a charge cell voltage of, I think 3.2, 3.4 volts, something like that. So still really low, but I've got another module that's pretty close to the other 18 in my pack here. So the first two modules that I charged this way, I took out of the pack and I charged them kind of by themselves. Actually, I had them on a little wooden furniture dolly that I have, so that if they caught on fire, I could roll up the garage door and just shove them outside really quick. After that went well and there was no fire, I decided to start charging the rest of the modules that I need to charge individually in the pack. It's a lot of work to unbolt all the bus bars and lift these heavy batteries out. So let me show you the battery I'm charging now. It's number 3 in my pack, and battery 0 is the most negative module in the pack. So it's the end of the pack that is the negative DC voltage, and module 22 is the most positive. So the negative terminal of battery module 0 is pack negative. So module 3 is the fourth one, starting with 0. When I started charging battery module 3, it was at 1.6 volts. So again, I set the iMax in nickel metal hydride mode. It's been charging right now for almost an hour. There is a timer on the iMax charger, and there's also a shutoff setting, which is really nice. So you don't have to, if you're gonna be somewhat unattended, or you know you wanna run it for an hour or 2 hours, you can set it that way and feel comfortable that it's gonna shut off. So we've been running for about an hour right now, and the module voltage is almost 11 volts. I'll let it continue running. It'll probably take another 15-30 minutes maybe to get to 11.5 volts. At that point, I'll switch the iMax to lithium mode. I'll be able to take a look at my cell voltages, and I'll let the iMax run on lithium balance charge for probably 4 hours, and then I'll move on. After this module, I've got 2 more to do, and we'll see what happens.